Meanwhile, this past week, we have witnessed countless memorials to the victims, including in Bayshore on Long Island, where many hundreds of mourners stood together in solidarity outside of the LGBT Network Center, everyone questioning why Mateen targeted an LGBT nightclub, even as numerous speakers vowed they would not be intimidated by the senseless, cold-hearted violence.
People attempt these acts of violence to silence us and chase us back in the closet. Yep. Well, let me tell you, that will not work. We will not back down. We will be stronger.
And as you see, the mourners lighting candles, pledging never to forget the victims and to continue the struggle against hate and violence. And joining us now is the founder of the LGBT Network of Long Island and Queens, the organization's CEO, David Kilmnick, and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
I know this is a difficult time for everyone. You led that memorial in Bayshore. We heard your remarks that the LGBT community will not back down in the face of hate. With all the information that's been coming out in the passing days, every day more astounding details, what are your thoughts on this atrocity at this moment?
Well, you know, this was obviously this was a tragic massacre in our country. It's the deadliest mass shooting in our country's history. It was an act of terrorism against Americans, and it was an act of hate against the LGBT community.
Do you have any doubt that the LGBT community was being targeted in this attack?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and I don't think we should underscore the fact that the attack was targeted towards a gay nightclub in Orlando, Pulse. So I think that that is a very important part of this whole of this massacre that we're talking about, and it kind of illustrates the hate and bias that still exists in our country and the work that we still need to do to overcome that.
Because we see these details coming out, alleged reports that perhaps Mateen himself had engaged in the lifestyle and gay apps and going to the club repeatedly and sending maybe confusing signals to people about what were his motivations in such a terrible attack. What do you feel about the information we've seen there?
Well, I think the only motivation that we really need to understand is that 49 people are dead and that there are over 50 left clinging on for their lives right now. So the motivation was hate, the motivation was violence, the motivation, you know, who knows what his sexual orientation was. I mean, he was in 2 marriages, but that doesn't mean a thing. You know, we've seen in our country's history that some of the most homophobic people are closeted themselves, and you know, we don't have to look too far in our capital to see a lot of the Republican congressmen who pass anti-gay and anti-LGBT laws are closeted themselves. So, but in the end, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that there are 49 families now that are grieving that they'll never get to see their child again.
Well, it's brought to light, this terrible incident, that there have been these attacks, horrible, violent killings of people who were believed to have been gay in some of the countries where the fundamentalists are operating. And so now, are you concerned that extremists are targeting the LGBT community?
Well, you know, extremists have been targeting the LGBT community for a long time. We're now just, the rest of the country is now more aware of that. I mean, ISIS beheads LGBT folks, throws them off roofs, kills them on a daily basis. In our own country, we've had religious right fundamentalists that have used religion for far too long to justify discrimination, hate, and bias against the LGBT community. So it's not something that's new. It's just something now that is more aware and talked about, and hopefully we take some action on it to end it once and for all.
Well, here you have Gay Pride Month. What's expected to be, we're told, the largest New York City parade ever is set for, I believe, next Sunday. Do you feel there's enough protection for this? This is a very open public display. People are walking in the streets.
Well, you know, we're all living in a post-9/11 world where, you know, when we have big, large public events, that security is different than when it was back back on September 11th years ago. So, you know, I'm confident that there's going to be a lot of security out there. One of the things that these extremists and murderers do when they attack the LGBT community is try and force us back in the closet. I mean, and that's not going to work. You know, people are going to come out in force. People are going to, allies and friends and co-workers and our families are going to come out in force to support support LGBT folks, because going back in the closet is not an option.
Well, you know, the Suffolk County Police Commissioner was at your rally, and he said, if you see something, say something. And does that, well, I'm wondering what you think about that advice, because obviously no one wants to let something go unreported if they know of a potential attack. But does that in any way conflict with the, you know, the libertarian lifestyle that maybe was long associated with the LGBT community? Does it stand it on its head in any way? See something, say something?
I mean, you know, LGBT people live in the same world that every other American does, and that's an important piece of advice, living in the new world that we're living in. And I don't think anyone's political ideology, and by the way, LGBT people have all different kinds of political ideology, I don't think that interferes with that. This is about safety, and the Commissioner's advice is correct. And, you know, our organization is no stranger to threats. Years ago, our center was attacked, where the windows were broken, our vans were broken.
I recall that.
And yeah, it was a scary time back then. When we took over the Long Island Pride Parade, the first year we had it was the year of the Boston Marathon bombing, and we received a note a couple of days before the parade itself in Huntington, which said, if you thought the Boston Marathon bombing was bad, you know, watch out, Long Island Pride is going to be worse. And we instituted security measures then for the first time that people's bags had to be checked. So it's the new world that we're living in. I think it's a very smart advice from the Commissioner, and it's something that not only LGBT Americans should be aware of, but every single American.
Well, you know, we hear some of the club owners on Fire Island saying they're already rethinking their plans for security, and that seems like just a wise thing to do, common sense at this point. How large is the LGBT community on Long Island? And it tends to swell in the summer, I've heard.
Yeah, well, the LGBT community, I mean, Long Island, as you know, is very long. And that, you know, with over 3 million folks, you could, you know, conservatively estimate that there's at least 500,000 folks who identify as LGBT. So making us one of the largest the largest suburban population of LGBT people in the entire nation. Over the summer, it does swell with Fire Island and the Hamptons. And, you know, one of the things that, particularly when it comes down to clubs, and there aren't too many clubs on the mainland on Long Island anymore. Life has changed. You know, more people are coupled, and socialization's different, and you have social media. But, you know, going to a club is a sanctuary where you're supposed to feel safe.
Well,
and so that was violated. That was violated this past week. And I think that, you know, we have to realize that we need to secure those clubs a little bit more, whatever measures are going to be taken. Well,
you know, everyone's still really impressed with the incredible courage that was shown by the people who helped save the people who were able to survive, and we're all stunned by what we've seen and trying to absorb it and make some sense of it. David Kilmnick, founder and CEO of the LGBT Network of Long Island and Queens, thanks for speaking with us in this very difficult time.
Thank you.